Vilnius, Flameskulls, Gas, and Godly Temptations. This week in Dave's Imagination presents Dark Queen Ascension, Adventures in Barovia. Stay tuned. So, last time we met, this is the December 16th episode of Dark Queen Ascension, Dave's Imaginations, Adventures in Barovia. Our gang is in the second session in the Amber Temple. The previous, they had entered the Amber Temple, they had taken a right, and they'd gone, and they were starting to explore the temple, and they came on a lecture hall, and they did a battle with a golem. Today, we started the night with they're trying to push their way into this lecture hall, but there's someone inside there blocking that door closed, saying, "Hey, I don't want to have anything to do with you." And so that's where we started our night this evening of D&D. So if we jump over to the picture here, and I open up my foundry. This is kind of the layout at the time of the early session. We had Varinka trying to get into the lecture hall, which she ultimately did, and she had an encounter with Vilnius, Vilnius I played as a cowardly, scared guy that just wants to be left alone, wants him to go away, and he had a previous encounter with the statue, as he called it, and knew of the Flameskull. So Varinka is trying to push her way in, and he says, "Did you deal with the statue?" And she says, "Yeah, we dealt with the statue." And he goes, "Did you deal with those flaming skull things?" And she says, "What flaming skulls?" And that's when, out of the blue, I had a flaming skull appear in the doorway and cast a fireball. And at that time, most of them had grouped right around the door, so I hit them all with a fireball just to start off the night, and we just jumped right into battle with the initiative. And at the same time, just out of reach of the fireball was our Strider. Now, Strider's the guy that plays Strider was out of town and couldn't make the session. And so whenever that happens, I don't like them to be I don't want to spend a lot of time thinking about the character. I usually try to put them off in a corner, doing off something a little different. And Strider had an epiphany, had a sense of something calling him. And so I moved him away, and he wanted to go off and look for something and wanted to ignore everything else. And when Varinka saw that was happening, she sent Irina, our NPC, to go help him and keep track of him. And Irina was trying to keep him safe. And then at the same time, early, Katota ran up there. Katota, our druid slash wizard, not druid, wizard slash cleric, and ran up there and used his persuasion to say, "Hey, snap out of this, Strider. We got to focus on what's going on at hand." And he did somewhat, and Strider was willing to go back and not rush off by himself. And as that was happening, we have Varinka and Vilnius having a dialogue, and they bust in the door. But everyone else was battling these Flameskulls. Now, this Flameskull, came in here, did his thing, but they ran up and they closed these doors. They ran up. I think Ruckus cast a mage hand, maybe. It was either Ruckus or Olak cast a mage hand, and they closed the doors, and they could see the green fiery glow of the Flameskulls as they went back and forth. And eventually, our party got brave enough to go into the room. But by that time, the Flameskulls went down this hole, and when the party went in there, and they went up to, it wasn't Ruckus, it was Olak that went up and investigated. So pull up. He went in to investigate. Eventually, I think they cast this flaming sphere over the top of their hole to give them some cover. But those Flameskulls started popping in and out and hitting them, and they quickly realized there was at least two, and eventually, I don't know if they became aware there was actually three as they went back and forth, and eventually they did. There was two up here, two at once, but they did manage to take care of one of them, The other one went back into the hole with the flame sphere, and we had Katota at that time came down. Katota at that time came down, and he pulled a big metal door from his robe of useful things, and boy was it useful, as he cast that door right over the top of this hole, sealing it, essentially sealing it off. Now, with that taken care of, whilst that was happening, Varinka and this guy were having their dialogue, and Varinka was saying, "Hey, if you want, we want you to help us. We want you to come along. We don't trust you, but we want you where we can see you." And he's saying, "Leave me alone, leave me alone." And Varinka doesn't have nothing to do with it. Eventually, Vilnius agreed to go along with him, but before he did so, he turned himself invisible. With that, they left, and everyone kind of gathered. We moved on to Strider. Well, Vilnius wanted to go to the south, right? He wanted to go to the south, saying, "Hey, the right way to go is to the south." But Strider really had a strong feeling that they should go to the north, and because they trust Strider, they don't trust Vilnius. They followed Strider to the north, and they move into these rooms. But Strider goes into these rooms, and there's nothing there. They don't see anything. The smashed statue, but they go into these halls, and Strider's confused. He has this feeling, and he can't shake it, but there's nothing here. Until eventually our highly perceptive dwarf cleric finally makes it into the room, says, "Guys, hey, there's a secret door here. There's a secret door here." And then they go down this secret door and to the lower level, and all the while, Vilnius, invisible, says, "Hey guys, this doesn't feel right. This isn't where we want to be." And they go to the lower level of the temple, and they go into the lower level, and in the lower level, they open up this crypt that stinks to high hell, right? But they open it up, and they see that it's full of these Ghasts guys. Our dwarf cleric says, "That's fine. Well, I have something just for them," as he pops off a fireball in there, and it doesn't kill him. And he was a little dismayed that it didn't kill him, but it did do a lot of damage, but he didn't quite know that. And so Varinka's kind of standing here at the door at this time, and they start to battle, but they fall pretty quickly because all they have left is like 6 hit points. Two of them all but two failed their dexterity check on the fireball. The other five failed, 2 succeeded. So the other 5, they only had like 6 hit points left. So they dropped pretty quickly after the fireball. But eventually we got to the point there's just a couple left. None of them. So these are Ghasts, of course. These are Ghasts, of course. If we bring up their character sheet here, we can go to D&D and Beyond. So a little bit of how I run the game is I often have the monster sheet up in my laptop. I also have a spreadsheet up, and on the D&D Beyond page, I will have the full thing up where I can see what they can do. And we bring up this guy, and I actually showed them the picture of the gas, and they said, "Yeah, that was pretty gnarly." But up here, none of them fell for the stench. We had no, actually, at the very end, our cleric did fall to the stench, but it didn't really affect him as the battle was already done. We had one guy had to succeed his Constitution saving throw for the claws, but otherwise these gas didn't do them much damage. They eventually took care of those gas. And another thing of how I run the game is I often will have the monsters preloaded into the screen just off to the side. And yeah, because again, if you look at how we set up our table, people can see that the camera from down. I'm playing with the TV on the middle of the table, and I don't run a dual map. That is, I don't have a DM map, and they have a different map. I just do it one and the same. And with that, I use Fog of War, but I use these overlays that I just create boxes that I set on top of the map. But that doesn't cover up my monsters, so you can see them. But sometimes I'll put them all out on the screen. I try to, but sometimes I'll throw a couple extra just to keep them guessing. Like here's a golem that might occur, and here's a shield guardian that might occur at some time, right? But eventually they took care of those guys, and we were to the point of they get their first exposure to first exposure to these amber sarcophagi, and I actually had a picture, amber sarcophagi, and we went through those three. By the time this happened, by the time that we got in there, Strider got in there. I should back up. So during the battle, at some point, Katota tried to do a spell, and he has the wild magic thing that once per day, I think it's supposed to be, he can gain advantage on attack, but then he'd have to roll on his wild magic, and we play that a little loose, right? So this time he attacked and then retroactively asked for advantage, and like, yeah, fine, I let him do it. But he still failed, and then he rolled on his wild magic table, and the wild magic was, it cast grease within 10 feet centered on him, and so we drew that in. That's what the red box is here, and so that was a little bit of fun hilarity, as I think everyone but our magic user, our Ruckus, failed their saving throw and fell to the ground off from the grease. No damage, it was just a little fun. And then after that's when we moved into the room. Everyone moved in the room, and Strider says, "This okay. Thank you everyone for going here, but this is not right. This is not what I was feeling." They did have the encounter with the gods, if you would, and we went through the dark gifts. The gifts. I really lightened up on. I really lightened up on the dark gifts part of it, and I really lightened up on the dark gifts part of it because I wanted them to choose them if they so wanted. I didn't want them to be too turned off by the fact that these were coming from dark gods. But I laid off on that intentionally, just for added temptation. So we go to so I often, this is another thing I do. On my laptop, I have D&D Beyond up. I have the Curse of Strahd module up, and I have the Amber Temple, areas of the Amber Temple, and a 33C. Yeah, so we went through the sarcophagus, and we tempted them, and boy, was it Ruckus was really tempted. He's based his character off of charisma. So when he had a dark gift increases his charisma by 4, maximum 22, he was really interested in that. I won't take a no for an answer, and he was thinking, he's mulling around, can he role play that or not, as he was contemplating that gift. Ultimately, they decided that, you know what, there's got to be more of these, and we'll come back to this if you really want it. So this one was charisma, but you can't take no for answer. The other one was reincarnate, but you lose all your teeth. And the other one was climb on walls. And Katota was kind of intrigued by this one. Climb on walls, but you grow an eye somewhere in your body, but that eye is blind and ever open. So he was tempted to that. So from there, they did go back up, and they said, finally, Vilnius said, "Hey, if you're done with this, can we go check out where I think it is?" And they did. And I'll drag these guys. They went back up, and we'll jump over there. Well, they went back up and around, went up the stairs and around. And they were carefully going down through this room where the Flameskulls were, and it was safe. They did check out this room to the south and didn't really see anything in there. And that's when they kind of clued on that, hey, there might be secret doors here, right? And that's kind of a failure of the map, right? Because here I have because I have these black blocks there. They know there's a room there. They just don't know how to get in there. But it did kind of remind them that there are secret rooms in this thing. And as they went down the stairs, which puts us back in the lower level of the Amber Temple. And I reread the description with the giant statue and everything, and the voided face. And they got down here, and who was it? It was Loin. At that time, when Vilnius says, "Fine, will you follow me and go the way I want?" He said, "I'll even turn myself visible," right? And he did turn himself visible. And that's when they went back down the stairs, and they got about here, and that's when from the statue came chain lightning, and it did a pretty incredible. I think it did 38 points of damage, but all three of them made their save, and so it must have been 37 because 18 points of damage to each of them, which is just one less than Irina's maximum of 19. So remember, all of us are level 9, except for Irina, who's level 3, and she is our chosen one. She's the one. She's our ally in Curse of Strahd. But those 3 take the damage, and we talk about running for it, and I give them each a turn to run. And Gloin wants to run back to the stairs, but everyone talks them to moving forward and into the hall, which they do. I think Varinka got the furthest, maybe. And I think Vilnius was out here also. As they round the corner here, and as they go through, as they go through this hall, I described to them how reflective the surfaces are, and their own reflections are there pounding against the wall, saying, "No, go back, go back." And they all kind of roll their eyes and they push forward. They round the corner and they see these 3 women trying to get in this southern door. And I say, they're saying, one of them says, "Well, try hocus pocus." And they hocus pocus, and the door doesn't open. No, that didn't work. And so they hear them saying this as they look. And I describe it as 3 women with brooms. And of course, they immediately think they're witches, which we don't know. Are they witches? Last night, that is where we left it off last night. They just round this corner. Some of them are pretty bad. I know Irina in particular is down to 1 hit points. All of them taken quite a bit of damage, but now they round this corner. Now they are smart enough to know that, hey, that room is likely where those Flameskulls are, and they look at those women with their brooms, and so now they have a decision to make of how they're going to approach them as those women are trying to get in that door. Okay, so that is how we left that. So that's where we're going to end our recap and reflection for this week. And next week is actually Christmas week, and I think we're not going to play Strahd, so it won't be in this series. If we do something, maybe we'll record it. Maybe I won't. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do yet. There's at least 2 people missing, probably a 3rd missing, and so I have to make a decision if I want to do this or do something else. We need to find out, right? So, but otherwise, we will follow up after that on the 30th, as it seems like everyone's going to be able to join us for that. So that's the end of this recap, and thanks for joining Dave's Imaginations. Until next time.